In the heart of the Sahara Desert lies one of the greatest mysteries of our planet. The Richat Structure is a series of perfect concentric circles with a diameter of almost 50 kilometers, which correspond strikingly closely to Plato's description of the legendary Atlantis. The size, number of rings, and geographical location are so accurate that it makes you wonder, could the Eye of the Sahara really be that lost civilization? Why does official science categorically reject this hypothesis despite the obvious parallels? What is the reason for the silence of scientists about one of the most amazing discoveries of the century? Today, we will reveal a secret that could turn our understanding of ancient human history upside down. If you are intrigued by the mysteries of ancient civilizations and the riddles of our planet, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now, here's a question for discussion in the comments. Do you think that academic science is deliberately hiding evidence of the existence of advanced ancient civilizations? Or does the Atlantis hypothesis really have no scientific basis? Share your opinion. We are very interested in hearing your point of view on this fascinating mystery. In the heart of the Sahara Desert, among the endless sand dunes of Mauritania, lies one of the most mysterious structures on our planet. It is called the Eye of the Sahara, or the Richat Structure. Perfect concentric circles with a diameter of almost 50 kilometers, as if created by the giant hand of an ancient architect. When astronauts first saw this structure from space, they couldn't believe their eyes. The perfect circles in the middle of the chaotic sands looked so artificial that they seemed to be the work of intelligent beings. Official science explains the origin of the Eye of the Sahara by natural geological processes, erosion and uplift of the Earth's crust. But there is another version that makes one shudder at its grandeur. Some researchers claim that the Richat Structure is nothing more than the remains of the legendary Atlantis, described by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato more than 2,000 years ago. The similarities in the descriptions are so striking that they make even skeptics think. Why does academic science so stubbornly reject this hypothesis? Could it be a deliberate cover-up of information that could radically change our understanding of ancient human history? Or are we dealing with yet another pseudoscientific theory based on coincidental similarities? To answer these questions, we need to carefully examine all the available facts and evidence. The history of the study of the Richat Structure began in the mid-20th century, when the first geological expeditions discovered this anomaly. Local residents had known about the existence of strange ring-shaped formations in the desert since time immemorial. But it was only with the advent of aerial photography that the true scale of this natural phenomenon became clear. The structure consists of a series of concentric ring ridges and depressions stretching for tens of kilometers. The first researchers were amazed by the regularity of the geometric shapes. Such perfect circles are extremely rare in nature, especially of such gigantic dimensions. This led scientists to suggest that the structure was man-made, but detailed studies have revealed no traces of human activity. The rocks that make up the rings are hundreds of millions of years old, which rules out their creation by intelligent beings in historical times. However, supporters of the Atlantic hypothesis are not giving up. They point out that an ancient civilization could have used natural geological formations as the basis for its structures, supplementing them with artificial structures. In their opinion, time and erosion could have destroyed all traces of human activity, leaving only the natural stone framework of an ancient city. The mystery of the Eye of the Sahara attracts researchers from all over the world. Each new expedition brings new data, but there is still no definitive answer to the question of the nature of this formation. One thing can be said with certainty. The structure of Richat remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of our planet, capable of overturning our understanding of humanity's past. The Richat Structure is a truly unique geological formation that amazes the imagination with its scale and perfection of form. The outer ring has a diameter of 47 kilometers, making this structure visible even from orbital heights. The concentric rings form an almost perfect circle, which is extremely unusual for natural formations of this scale. Each ring differs in rock composition, color, and height above sea level. The central part of the structure is a relatively flat area about 10 kilometers in diameter, surrounded by a series of ring-shaped elevations. These hills are formed by various types of rock, from ancient granites and gneisses to younger sedimentary deposits. Between the rings are depressions filled with sand and debris, which in the past may have been riverbeds or lakes. The remarkable symmetry of the structure is particularly striking. Geologists note that natural processes rarely create such regular geometric shapes. Usually, erosion and tectonic processes lead to the formation of irregular, asymmetrical structures. But the Eye of the Sahara demonstrates a striking orderliness that makes one wonder about the possible reasons for such an organization. The color scheme of the structure varies from ring to ring. The inner areas have light, almost white shades due to the presence of quartzites and light-colored sandstones. The middle rings are colored reddish and brown due to iron-bearing minerals. The outer rings are darker in color due to basalt and other igneous rocks. This color differentiation creates an impressive visual effect, which is particularly noticeable in satellite images. The differences in height between the rings are also quite significant. The highest points of the structure rise 400 meters above the central part, forming natural observation platforms. These elevations offer a panoramic view of the entire structure, allowing visitors to appreciate its grandiose scale. It is from here that the artificial nature of this natural formation becomes particularly evident. The drainage system of the structure is also of interest. Several watercourses cross the ring formations, creating peculiar breaks in their continuity. These watercourses follow a radial direction, which further emphasizes the axial symmetry of the entire system. In the past, when the Sahara's climate was more humid, these watercourses may have been full-flowing rivers that formed a complex hydrological network. Vegetation within the structure is extremely sparse, which is typical for the modern Sahara. However, in some depressions between the rings, small areas of more diverse flora have been preserved, indicating that more favorable conditions for life may have existed here in the past. These relict plant communities may hold the key to understanding the paleoclimatic conditions of the region. The mineral composition of the structure's rocks is very diverse. Both ancient Archean rocks and relatively young sedimentary formations are found here. This diversity indicates the complex geological history of the area, which included periods of magmatic activity, sedimentation, and intense erosion. It is this diversity that has created the unique appearance of the Eye of the Sahara. To understand the scale of the controversy surrounding the Richat Structure, we must turn to the original source of the legend of Atlantis, the dialogues of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, Timaeus, and Critias, written in the 4th century, before Christ. It is in these works that a detailed description of a mysterious civilization that supposedly existed 9,000 years before Plato's time first appears. According to the philosopher, this story was told to him by the Athenian sage Solon, who in turn learned it from Egyptian priests. Plato describes Atlantis as an island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, as the ancient Greeks called the Strait of Gibraltar. The island was larger than Libya and Asia combined, which indicates its enormous size. This island was home to a powerful empire that controlled many other islands and even parts of continents. The Atlantean civilization reached unprecedented heights in architecture, art, and military affairs. The philosopher pays particular attention to the description of the capital of Atlantis. The city was built in the form of concentric circles. 3 rings of land alternated with 3 rings of water. The outer ring was about 27 kilometers in diameter, which is remarkably close to the size of the central part of the Richat structure. The rings were connected by bridges and tunnels, and the central part was an island with a diameter of 1 stadium, approximately 180 meters. In the center of the city stood the Temple of Poseidon, covered in gold and silver. Around the temple was the palace of the rulers of Atlantis, surrounded by a wall of orichalcum, a mysterious metal that the Atlanteans valued above all else except gold. The inner rings were protected by walls covered with copper and tin, and the outer ring was surrounded by a wall of orichalcum that glowed with a fiery brilliance. The water rings served not only as a defense, but were also part of a complex transportation system. Large ships could pass through them, delivering goods from various parts of the empire. The outer harbor was connected to the sea by a wide canal 50 stadia long, about 9 kilometers. This canal was so wide and deep that even the largest warships of the time could pass through it. Plato also describes the island's natural resources. Atlantis was full of forests, pastures, mines, and sources of both cold and hot water. The fertile soil allowed for growing different crops, and rich metal deposits provided materials for construction and crafts. He especially mentions the hot water sources, which were used for baths and other public buildings. According to the philosopher's account, the Atlantean civilization declined over time. Initially wise and just rulers gradually lost their virtues, becoming greedy and warlike. They began conquering other peoples, including the ancient Athenians. However, the gods, angered by the moral decline of the Atlanteans, decided to punish them. As a result of divine wrath, Atlantis was engulfed by the sea in just 1 day and 1 night. This happened 9,000 years before the time of Solon, that is, approximately in the 11th millennium BC. The philosopher claims that after the catastrophe, impassable shallows formed at the site of the island, making navigation in those waters impossible. That is why, according to Plato, the western regions of the ocean remained unexplored. A comparison of Plato's description with the structure of Richat gives striking results that cannot fail to impress even skeptical researchers. Let's start with the dimensions. The philosopher indicates the diameter of the outer ring as about 27 kilometers, while the central active part of the eye of the Sahara has a diameter of about 25 kilometers. The difference is less than 10%, which can be considered a remarkable coincidence given the possible errors in ancient measurements and modern calculations. The number of concentric rings also matches Plato's description. The Richat structure demonstrates a pronounced ring structure, with the 3 main rings of elevations being the most clearly visible, which in the past may have alternated with water bodies. In a more humid climate, the depressions between the rings could well have been filled with water, creating exactly the picture described by the ancient Greek philosopher. The geographical location of the structure is also noteworthy. Plato places Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, that is, beyond the Mediterranean Sea, in the Atlantic Ocean. Mauritania, where the Eye of the Sahara is located, is on the Atlantic coast of Africa, not far from those very Pillars of Hercules. In ancient times, when the sea level was different, the coastal zone could extend much further inland, making the existence of an island state in this region possible. The description of Atlantis's natural resources is also reflected in the geological features of the Richat Structure area. Plato mentions various metals, including the mysterious orichalcum. Geological studies show that there are indeed deposits of various metals in this region, including iron, copper, and rarer elements. Some researchers suggest that orichalcum could have been an alloy of copper and zinc, which are found in deposits in this area. Plato's mention of hot springs has also been confirmed. There are known underground water outlets in the area of the Richat Structure, some of which have elevated temperatures due to geothermal activity. These springs could have played an important role in the lives of the ancient population, providing not only drinking water, but also creating conditions for the development of crafts and metallurgy. The central part of the structure is indeed a relatively flat area that could have served as the site of the main city. Its dimensions are quite consistent with the central island, with a diameter of one stadium described by Plato. Modern research shows that this area has a slightly different geological composition compared to the surrounding rings, which could have created special conditions for construction and water supply. Radial faults in the structure, along which watercourses flowed in the past, could have served as the very channels that connected the rings to each other and to the open sea. The width and direction of these natural waterways correspond to the description of Atlantis's transportation system. During a wetter climate, these channels could have been navigable, providing a link between different parts of the city. The time frame is also worth considering. Plato dates the destruction of Atlantis to the 11th millennium BC, which coincides with the end of the last ice age. It was at this time that radical climate changes occurred, which could have led to the desertification of the Sahara and the disappearance of a civilization that had existed in more favorable conditions. Catastrophic climate change could well have been perceived by the ancients as divine punishment. Official geological science offers a completely different explanation for the origin of the Richat structure, based on well-studied natural processes. According to modern research, the Eye of the Sahara is the result of prolonged erosion of a geological dome formed by the uplift of the Earth's crust. This process took millions of years and led to the formation of a unique ring structure that is striking in its regularity. The formation of the structure began in the Mesozoic era, when tectonic processes caused a dome-shaped uplift of the Earth's crust. This dome consisted of rocks of varying hardness, from soft sedimentary to hard igneous. The different resistance of these rocks to weathering and erosion became a key factor in the formation of concentric rings. Softer rocks were destroyed more quickly, forming depressions, while harder rocks remained in the form of ring-shaped elevations. The central part of the structure is composed mainly of rhyolites and other acidic igneous rocks, which are highly resistant to weathering. This is why the center of the structure remained relatively elevated compared to the surrounding areas. The ring-shaped elevations are formed by quartzites and sandstones of various ages, which are also highly resistant to erosion processes. Between the stable rings are zones composed of softer rocks, slates, argillites, and dolomites. These rocks have undergone intensive weathering and have been partially or completely removed by erosion, forming ring depressions. As a result, A characteristic concentric structure has formed, in which hard and soft rocks form a regular alternation. Differential erosion, a process in which different rock types break down at different rates depending on their composition and structure, played an important role in the formation of the structure. Climatic changes that occurred in the region throughout its geological history led to alternating periods of intense weathering and relative calm. This contributed to the gradual emergence of the dome's ring structure. Radial faults crossing the ring structure were formed as a result of tectonic stresses that arose when the dome rose. These faults became the main routes for surface water runoff, which led to the formation of a radial system of watercourses. During periods of wetter climate, these watercourses actively eroded the rock, deepening the valleys and emphasizing the ring structure. The age of the rocks that make up the structure is determined by various methods of absolute dating. The oldest rocks in the central part are about 600 million years old, which corresponds to the late Proterozoic era. The younger sedimentary rocks in the outer rings date back to the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras. Such a wide age range testifies to the complex geological history of the region. The mineral composition of the rocks also confirms the natural origin of the structure. Mineral associations characteristic of certain geological processes have been found in various rings. The presence of typical magmatic, metamorphic, and sedimentary minerals indicates the sequence of processes that led to the formation of the modern appearance of the Richat structure. Comparison with similar geological formations in other parts of the world confirms the natural origin of the eye of the Sahara. Similar ring structures, although smaller in size, are known in many regions of the planet. All of them were formed as a result of similar geological processes: the uplift of the Earth's crust and subsequent differential erosion. Despite geological explanations for the origin of the Richat structure, archaeological research in the region has revealed intriguing findings that indicate the ancient presence of humans in these places. Although no direct evidence of a developed civilization has yet been found in the structure itself, the surrounding areas are rich in artifacts from various historical periods. These findings raise questions about the possibility of more extensive development of the region in ancient times. The most ancient traces of human activity in the Eye of the Sahara area date back to the Lower Paleolithic period. Stone tools found by archaeological expeditions are more than 100,000 years old. This indicates that the region was inhabited long before the appearance of modern humans in other parts of the planet. The concentration of Paleolithic sites around the structure may indicate that it served as an important landmark for ancient hunter-gatherers. Of particular interest are finds from the Neolithic era, when the Sahara was not yet a desert. Pottery fragments, stone axes, and other tools indicate the existence of a developed agricultural society here. Some pottery exhibits a high level of craftsmanship, which may indicate the existence of specialized craft centers. Radiocarbon dating of these finds shows that they are between 8,000 and 4,000 years old. The rock paintings found in various parts of the region are a unique chronicle of ancient life. They depict hunting scenes, domestic animals, people, and mysterious geometric figures. Some images resemble settlement plans or water system diagrams. Of particular interest are drawings in which concentric circles can be distinguished, possibly representing the structure of the Richat itself or related cult beliefs. Metallurgical finds are also noteworthy. Fragments of copper and bronze artifacts found at the site testify to the development of metalworking in the region. Analysis of the composition of the metal artifacts revealed the presence of elements characteristic of local ores. This indicates not only the extraction, but also the processing of metals on site. Some researchers link these finds to Plato's mention of rich deposits of various metals in Atlantis. Archaeological evidence points to the existence of a complex water supply system in ancient times. Remains of stone structures that may have served as dams or water collection structures have been found in several places around the structure. These structures demonstrate knowledge of hydraulic engineering and the ability to organize large-scale construction work. It is possible that the ancient inhabitants of the region knew how to use the natural features of the landscape to create artificial reservoirs. The burial complexes discovered by archaeologists are also of considerable interest. Some of the graves contain rich grave goods, including gold jewelry, weapons, and art objects. This indicates the existence of social stratification and the accumulation of wealth in ancient society. The orientation of some burials and the location of burial grounds may indicate the special significance attached to the Richat structure in funeral rituals. Linguistic studies of local languages and dialects also provide interesting information. The language of the local Tuareg tribes has preserved words and concepts that may be related to ancient ideas about the structure. Some place names in the region have meanings related to water, circles, or sacred places. These linguistic data may contain echoes of ancient myths and legends about the origin of the Eye of the Sahara. Understanding the possibility of an advanced civilization in the area of the Richat structure is impossible without studying the paleoclimatic conditions of the region. The modern Sahara is one of the driest deserts in the world, but this was not always the case. Scientific research convincingly proves that just a few thousand years ago, this territory was a green savanna with abundant water resources, which created ideal conditions for the development of human civilization. The last period of humidification of the Sahara, known as the African Humid Period or Green Sahara, lasted from approximately the 14th to the 4th millennium BC. At that time, the average annual precipitation in the region was 10 times higher than today. Vast areas, including the Richat structure, were covered with grassy vegetation, shrubs, and even forests. Numerous rivers and lakes provided an abundance of fresh water. The main cause of the dramatic climate change was cyclical changes in the Earth's orbit, known as the Milankovitch cycles. Changes in the Earth's axial tilt and orbital eccentricity led to a strengthening of the African monsoon, which brought moist air masses from the Atlantic Ocean far into the continent. Intense rains fed numerous rivers that carried their waters across the Sahara to the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Paleohydrological studies show that during the Green Sahara period, a large river flowed through the Richat structure area, which may have been navigable. This river was part of an extensive river system connecting different parts of the continent. Analysis of ancient riverbeds and terraces indicates that the water flow was powerful enough to support regular navigation and could have served as an important transport artery for ancient civilizations. Lake sediments found in various parts of the Sahara contain remains of diatoms, mollusks, and other organisms characteristic of freshwater bodies. Radiocarbon dating of these sediments confirms the existence of large lakes between the 10th and 4th millennia BC. Some of these ancient lakes were located in close proximity to the Richat structure and may have filled the depressions between its ring-shaped elevations. Pollen analysis of cores from ancient lake sediments allows us to reconstruct the vegetation of that time. The pollen found indicates the existence of a diverse flora, including grasses, legumes, tree species, and aquatic plants. Such vegetation could have supported a rich fauna and provided a resource base for a developed human society. The presence of pollen from cultivated plants is particularly important, as it may indicate the development of agriculture. Faunal remains also confirm the radically different nature of the ancient Sahara ecosystem. Bones of hippopotamuses, crocodiles, elephants, and other animals characteristic of humid tropical regions are regularly found in desert areas. These findings indicate the existence of permanent water bodies and a rich food supply. The presence of large herbivores created opportunities for the development of hunting and animal husbandry. The end of the African wet period was gradual, but its final stage was quite abrupt. Around the 4th millennium BCE, the climate began to dry rapidly, culminating in the formation of the modern desert. This climatic transition may have been perceived by ancient inhabitants as a sudden catastrophe, especially considering that human memory preserves memories of important events for many generations. The speed of climate change was striking from a geological point of view. In a few centuries, a flourishing savanna turned into a lifeless desert. Rivers dried up, lakes disappeared, and vegetation died. The population was forced to migrate to the coasts or to the river valleys of the Nile. It was this period of mass migration that may have given rise to myths about the demise of great civilizations, including the legend of Atlantis. Water resources played a key role in the functioning of the ancient civilization that may have existed in the area of the Richat Structure. The hydrological features of this region during the wet climate created unique opportunities for the development of a complex water supply and transportation system. Modern research allows us to reconstruct the ancient hydrological network and understand how the natural features of the area could have been used to create a developed urban infrastructure. The central part of the Richat structure is located in an area of internal drainage, which means that surface water is concentrated in closed depressions. During periods of wet climate, this led to the formation of a system of lakes in ring-shaped depressions between the elevations. Hydrological modeling shows that with an average annual precipitation of 1,000 millimeters, these lakes could have been permanent and reached significant sizes. Radial valleys crossing the ring structure served as natural watercourses, connecting the inland lakes with the external river network. These valleys vary in width and depth, indicating different intensities of water flow during different geological periods. The largest of them could have been navigable and served as transport arteries connecting the central part of the structure with the outside world. Geophysical studies have revealed the presence of buried ancient river channels in the Richat Structure area. These paleochannels, detected by ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry, indicate the existence of a complex river system in the past. Some of these ancient channels are several hundred meters wide, indicating powerful water flows. The direction of the ancient channels corresponds to a radial system, confirming the connection with the ring structure. The region's underground waters are also of considerable interest. Modern hydrogeological studies show the presence of several aquifers at different depths. The deepest of these, associated with ancient sandstones, contains water that is tens of thousands of years old, confirming its formation during a humid climate. These underground waters could have provided a constant water supply even during periods of drought. The geological structure of the area created favorable conditions for the accumulation and preservation of underground waters. The alternation of water-permeable and water-resistant rocks led to the formation of artesian basins. In some places, underground water came to the surface in the form of springs, creating oases in the desert. These springs may have been sacred to the ancient inhabitants of the region. The mineralization of groundwater in the Richat Structure area has interesting features. Analysis of the chemical composition shows the presence of various dissolved minerals, including compounds of iron, copper, and other metals. This may explain Plato's mention of the healing properties of the springs of Atlantis. Some sources have elevated temperatures due to geothermal heating, which also corresponds to the description of hot springs in the philosophers' dialogues. Traces of ancient hydraulic structures discovered by archaeologists indicate a high level of development of water management in the region. The remains of stone structures that may have served as dams, canals, or water collection basins demonstrate knowledge of the principles of hydraulics. Some of these structures are oriented in such a way as to make the most of the natural features of the terrain to control water flows. Paleohydrological calculations show that the lake system in the ring depressions of the Richat Structure could have contained billions of cubic meters of fresh water. Such reserves could have met the needs of a large urban population for many years, even with reduced rainfall. The gradual drying up of these lakes during the period of climate change could have taken several centuries, allowing the population to adapt to the new conditions or migrate to more favorable regions. The official academic position on the connection between the Richat Structure and Atlantis remains skeptical, which raises numerous questions and speculations about the possible motives behind this attitude. Most geologists, archaeologists, and historians categorically reject any attempts to link the Eye of the Sahara with Plato's legendary civilization, citing the lack of direct evidence and contradictions with established scientific facts. However, critics of this position point to the bias and conservatism of the scientific community. The main argument against the Atlantic hypothesis is a temporal discrepancy. Plato dates the destruction of Atlantis to the 11th millennium BC, when, according to most scientists, humanity was in the stage of primitive gathering and hunting. Official science asserts that advanced civilizations did not appear until the 5th millennium BC in Mesopotamia and the Nile Valley. The existence of a highly developed civilization in the 11th millennium BC contradicts established ideas about the evolution of human society. Geological objections are also significant from the point of view of traditional science. The rocks that make up the Richat Structure are hundreds of millions of years old, which rules out their creation by humans in any historical period. The ring structure can be explained by natural erosion processes and does not require hypotheses about artificial origins. The absence of any artifacts in the structure that could be unequivocally linked to an advanced civilization also serves as an argument against the Atlantean theory. Archaeological data, according to skeptics, does not confirm the existence of a civilization in the region that matches Plato's description. The artifacts found belong to different periods and cultures, but none of them indicate the existence of a single highly developed civilization with advanced architecture, metallurgy, and writing. Critics point out that all archaeological finds fit within the framework of known African cultures of the Stone and Bronze Ages, which did not reach the level of development described in Plato's dialogues. Historians also express serious doubts about the reliability of Plato's account itself. Many researchers consider the story of Atlantis to be a philosophical allegory designed to illustrate ideas about the ideal state and the dangers of moral decline. The philosophers' dialogues do not refer to any independent sources other than Solon's account, the reliability of which is also questionable. The absence of references to Atlantis in other ancient authors is also used as an argument against its real existence. Linguistic studies show that many place names and names in Plato's story are clearly of Greek origin, which may indicate their fictional nature. The name Atlantis comes from the name of the Greek titan Atlas, which points to a mythological rather than historical basis for the story. The description of Atlantis's political structure also contains elements characteristic of Greek political thought in Plato's time. The conservatism of scientific institutions also plays a role in the rejection of alternative theories. Academic careers are built on publications in peer-reviewed journals, which rarely accept articles that contradict established paradigms. Researchers who propose radical interpretations of archaeological and geological data risk losing their reputation and funding. This creates an atmosphere of self-censorship and suppression of alternative viewpoints. Economic factors can also influence the position of official science. Many archaeological projects are funded by government organizations or international foundations that are interested in obtaining predictable results. Research that could lead to a revision of established historical concepts is perceived as risky and may not receive the necessary support. This is particularly relevant for regions in Africa, where political instability makes long-term research difficult. Psychological aspects also play an important role. The scientific community has invested enormous effort in creating a modern picture of ancient history, and recognizing the existence of an unknown, highly developed civilization would require a radical rethinking of many established facts. Such changes are painful for the scientific community, which prefers gradual refinements to radical revolutions in understanding the past. Methodological limitations of modern science also contribute to skepticism about the Atlantic hypothesis. Archaeology and geology rely on material evidence, which may not survive in a desert climate. Organic materials decay, metal objects corrode, and stone structures are destroyed by sandstorms. The absence of direct evidence does not mean that the phenomenon itself does not exist, but scientific methodology requires caution in drawing conclusions when data is lacking. Despite the skepticism of official science, there are many alternative theories about the origin of the Richat structure that attempt to explain its unique features from different points of view. These theories range from entirely scientific hypotheses to outright fantastical assumptions, but each reflects a desire to find an explanation for the mysterious regularity of this geological formation. Considering alternative versions allows us to better understand the complexity of the problem and the limitations of our current knowledge. One of the most serious alternative theories is the hypothesis of the meteorite origin of the Richat structure. Proponents of this version point to the similarity of the Eye of the Sahara to other known impact structures formed by the fall of large cosmic bodies. The concentric rings could have been formed by a shock wave propagating from the point of impact. The regularity of the geometric shapes can be explained by the symmetry of the explosive process and subsequent erosion. Geophysical anomalies in the area of the structure may indeed support the impact theory. Magnetic measurements reveal the presence of materials with unusual magnetic properties, which may be the result of exposure to extreme temperatures and pressures during a cosmic collision. Some minerals in the structure show signs of shock metamorphism, although this data is disputed by proponents of the erosion hypothesis. The volcanic theory suggests that the Richat structure is the remnants of an ancient volcanic complex. The ring-shaped formations could have been formed by a series of concentric eruptions or the collapse of a magma chamber. The presence of various magmatic rocks in the structure confirms the possibility of volcanic activity in the past. Radial faults are also characteristic of volcanic areas and could have served as channels for magma to escape. The tectonic hypothesis explains the origin of the structure as a complex interaction of faults and uplifts of the Earth's crust. The intersection of various fault systems could have created conditions for the formation of ring structures. Uneven tectonic movements led to the differential uplift of various blocks, which, combined with erosion, created the modern appearance of the Eye of the Sahara. This theory explains not only the ring structure, but also the radial elements. The cryptovolcanic theory combines elements of the volcanic and tectonic hypotheses. According to this version, the structure was formed as a result of deep magmatic processes that did not lead to surface eruptions, but caused a dome-shaped uplift of the Earth's crust. Subsequent erosion revealed the internal structure of the dome, creating characteristic concentric rings. This theory explains the presence of both magmatic and sedimentary rocks in the structure. The diapiric model assumes that the structure was formed as a result of the upward movement of less dense plastic rocks through denser overlying layers. Such processes are characteristic of salt domes and some other geological formations. The concentric arrangement of rocks of different compositions is explained by their different mobility during diapirism. Erosion subsequently revealed the internal structure of the diapir. The hydrothermal theory links the origin of the structure to the activity of hot underground waters. The circulation of hydrothermal solutions could have led to the selective dissolution and replacement of rocks, creating a ring structure with varying resistance to weathering. The presence of minerals characteristic of hydrothermal processes confirms the possibility of such a formation mechanism. Hot water sources in the region also indicate the presence of hydrothermal activity. Some researchers propose combined models that combine elements of different theories. For example, the initial tectonic uplift could have been accompanied by magmatic activity, and subsequent hydrothermal activity and erosion completed the formation of the modern structure. Such a multi-stage process could have taken millions of years and explain the complexity of the geological structure of the Eye of the Sahara. A comprehensive approach to studying the structure could provide a more complete understanding of its origin. The question of the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations remains one of the most controversial in modern archaeology and history. If we assume that the Richat structure is indeed related to the activities of an ancient civilization, then we need to understand what technologies people could have had at their disposal 11,000 years ago. Official science claims that at that time, humanity was only just mastering agriculture and could not create monumental structures. However, accumulating archaeological data is forcing us to reconsider these ideas. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey has radically changed our understanding of the capabilities of Paleolithic societies. This temple complex, built about 12,000 years ago, demonstrates the highest level of stone architecture and labor organization. Multi-ton stone blocks were carved with jeweler's precision and decorated with intricate reliefs. The creation of such a structure required not only advanced technical skills, but also a complex social organization capable of mobilizing and coordinating the labor of a large number of people. Megalithic structures around the world testify to the remarkable engineering abilities of ancient civilizations. Stonehenge, the Egyptian pyramids, Baalbek in Lebanon, and Sacsayhuaman in Peru are all monuments that demonstrate knowledge of the exact sciences, advanced construction technologies, and the ability to undertake large-scale projects. Many of these structures contain astronomical alignments, indicating a deep knowledge of mathematics and astronomy. Ancient metallurgical technologies may also have been more advanced than is commonly believed. The discovery of high-quality metal artifacts in various parts of the world indicates the existence of advanced metalworking technologies in ancient times. Damascus steel, Roman concrete, and ancient alloys all testify to the fact that some technologies of the past surpassed those of later eras. Perhaps there were other technologies whose knowledge has been lost. Ancient hydraulic structures are also striking in their complexity and scale. The canal and reservoir systems in Mesopotamia, the underground aqueducts in Persia, and the terraces of the Andes all required a deep knowledge of hydraulics and geology. If an ancient civilization really existed in the area of the Richat Structure, it could well have used the natural features of the landscape to create a complex water supply and transportation system. The navigational skills of ancient seafarers are also noteworthy. Polynesians crossed the Pacific Ocean in primitive boats, navigating by the stars and ocean currents. The Phoenicians and other ancient peoples undertook long sea voyages with only the simplest navigational instruments at their disposal. This points to the existence of advanced knowledge in the fields of astronomy and geography, which may have been the heritage of even more ancient civilizations. The mathematical and geometric knowledge of the ancients is also impressive. The pyramids of Giza were built with remarkable precision, and their proportions are related to fundamental mathematical constants. The ancient Greeks, Babylonians, Indians, and Chinese developed complex mathematical systems that were used in architecture, astronomy, and engineering. Perhaps this knowledge has more ancient roots than is commonly believed. The organizational abilities of ancient societies should not be underestimated. The construction of large structures required not only technical knowledge, but also the ability to plan, manage resources, and coordinate the actions of thousands of people. Such projects presuppose the existence of a developed administrative system, writing, and means of communication. Even if written sources have not survived, the structures themselves testify to a high level of social organization. The possibility of technological loss cannot be ruled out either. History knows many examples when advanced civilizations fell into decline and their technological achievements were forgotten. The secret of Damascus steel, the recipe for Roman concrete, the glass-making techniques of ancient craftsmen, all this was lost and only partially restored in later times. Perhaps a similar fate befell the technologies of the hypothetical Atlantean civilization. Space technology has revolutionized the study of the Richat Structure, providing researchers with unique opportunities for detailed analysis of this mysterious formation. High-resolution satellite images have made it possible to assess the true scale and geometric accuracy of the Eye of the Sahara for the first time, while modern remote sensing methods have opened up new horizons in understanding its internal structure. Data obtained from space has become the basis for many new theories and hypotheses about the origin of this unique geological formation. The first high-quality satellite images of the Richat Structure were obtained as part of the Landsat program in the 1970s. These images caused a sensation in the scientific world, showing for the first time the complete picture of the concentric rings in their true scale. Geologists were amazed by the accuracy of the geometric shapes and their enormous size. Subsequent images from more advanced satellites only confirmed the uniqueness of this formation. Multispectral imaging revealed subtle differences in the composition of the rocks that make up the various rings of the structure. Different minerals reflect electromagnetic radiation differently in different spectral ranges, creating characteristic spectral signatures. Analysis of this data showed that each ring has a unique mineral composition, confirming the complexity of the geological structure of the Richat Structure. Radar interferometry has opened up new possibilities for studying the internal structure of the Eye of the Sahara. Radar waves are able to penetrate sandy deposits and reveal buried geological formations. These studies have discovered a system of underground channels and cavities that may be the remains of an ancient river network or karst formations. Some of these underground structures are clearly man-made, fueling speculation about their possible anthropogenic origin. Gravimetric studies using satellites have also yielded interesting results. Measurements of the Earth's gravitational field have revealed anomalies in the area of the Richat Structure, which may indicate heterogeneity in the density of the rock at depth. These anomalies may be related to both natural geological processes and possible voids of artificial origin. Detailed interpretation of the gravimetric data requires additional ground-based studies. Thermal infrared imaging has revealed interesting temperature anomalies within the structure. Different areas show different heat capacity and thermal conductivity, which may indicate differences in rock composition or the presence of underground cavities. Some areas show abnormally high temperatures, which may indicate geothermal activity or geological features. LIDAR surveys from aircraft and drones have enabled the creation of detailed 3D models of the Richat Structure's relief. This technology uses laser pulses to accurately measure distances and can create digital terrain models with an accuracy of several centimeters. Analysis of LIDAR data has revealed many small details of the terrain that are not visible in conventional images, including possible remains of ancient structures. Hyperspectral imaging is the most advanced method of remote sensing. This technology allows images to be captured in hundreds of narrow spectral channels, making it possible to accurately determine the mineral composition of the surface. Analysis of hyperspectral data has revealed the presence of rare minerals that may be indicators of unusual geological processes or even traces of ancient human activity. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are increasingly being used to analyze large volumes of satellite data. Algorithms are capable of identifying patterns and anomalies that may escape the human eye. Applying these technologies to the study of the Richat Structure could lead to new discoveries and insights into its nature. Automatic image analysis allows the processing of data from many years of observations and the identification of long-term changes in the structure. Myths and legends from around the world contain surprisingly similar stories about great civilizations that were destroyed by catastrophes. These tales, passed down from generation to generation long before the advent of writing, may contain echoes of real historical events, distorted by time and repeated retellings. An analysis of world mythology reveals striking similarities in descriptions of floods, lost continents, and highly developed ancient civilizations, which may indicate that these legends have common roots. Sumerian texts contain some of the earliest written evidence of the Great Flood and pre-flood civilizations. The Epic of Gilgamesh tells of a time when gods walked among men and civilization reached unprecedented heights. Sumerian king lists mention rulers who reigned for tens of thousands of years, which may be a distorted memory of more ancient times. Descriptions of pre-flood cities and their achievements echo Plato's account of Atlantis. The Indian Vedas also contain references to cycles of creation and destruction of civilizations. The concept of yuga, cosmic ages, implies the existence of more advanced civilizations in the past that were destroyed by catastrophes. Descriptions of flying machines called vimanas and divine cities may be a reflection of memories of technologically advanced ancient societies. The accuracy of astronomical data in Vedic texts indicates the high level of scientific knowledge of their creators. According to Plato, Egyptian priests were the keepers of ancient knowledge about lost civilizations. The texts of the pyramids and other ancient Egyptian sources contain references to Zef-Tepi, the first time when the gods ruled Egypt and passed on the knowledge of civilization to humans. This mythical time may correspond to the period of existence of a highly developed civilization in North Africa, the remains of which formed the basis of Egyptian culture. Greek myths abound with stories of a golden age and heroic times when people possessed superhuman abilities. The myth of the 4 ages of humanity describes a gradual decline from the Golden Age to the Iron Age, which may reflect the decline of an ancient civilization. The legends of Atlantis, as told by Plato, were just one of many Greek myths about lost lands and civilizations. Celtic legends tell of Tir na Nog, the land of eternal youth, located beyond the Western Sea. This mythical land had all the signs of a developed civilization: abundance, wise rulers, and magical technologies. The demise of this country is associated with a violation of the cosmic order, which echoes Plato's account of the moral decline of the Atlanteans. Scandinavian mythology contains a legend about Ragnarok, or Twilight of the Gods, when the existing world will perish and a new one will be born. This cyclical understanding of history may reflect memories of periodic catastrophes that destroyed civilizations. Descriptions of the marvelous structures and technologies of the gods may be distorted memories of the achievements of ancient peoples. American Indians also preserved legends about the great civilizations of the past. Aztec legends tell of 5 suns, 5 eras, each ending in catastrophe. The Maya believed in the cyclical nature of time and the periodic destruction of the world. The Incas remembered the Viracochas, white-skinned teachers who brought civilization and disappeared into the ocean. African peoples also preserved legends about great civilizations that existed before the desertification of the Sahara. The Dogon tell of the Nomo, water beings who brought knowledge from the distant star Sirius. These beings may be a mythologized memory of representatives of an advanced civilization that inhabited the region when the Sahara was green. Oceanic peoples have preserved legends about Lemuria and Mu, continents that were lost in the Pacific Ocean. These legends may reflect memories of lands that were flooded when sea levels rose after the Ice Age. Polynesian myths tell of great navigators of the past who possessed knowledge beyond the capabilities of historical times. Modern expeditions to the Richat Structure face numerous difficulties, but each one brings new data that either confirms or refutes various theories about the origin of the Eye of the Sahara. Field research remains the only way to obtain reliable information about the geological structure, possible archaeological finds, and other features of this unique formation. However, political instability in the region, extreme climatic conditions, and financial constraints seriously hamper full-scale scientific research. French geologists were among the first to organize systematic studies of the Richat Structure in the EE 1960s. Their expeditions established the basic geological characteristics of the formation and proposed an erosion theory for its origin. Detailed mapping of various types of rock allowed the creation of the first scientific models of the structure's formation. However, these early studies were limited by the technological capabilities of the time. An international geological expedition in the 1980s was the first to use modern geophysical research methods to study the Eye of the Sahara. Seismic, magnetometric, and gravimetric measurements revealed the complex internal structure of the formation. Anomalies were discovered that could indicate the presence of underground cavities or heterogeneities in the composition of the rocks. These data raised new questions about the origin of the structure. An American archaeological expedition in the 1990s focused on finding traces of ancient human activity in the area of the structure. Although no significant archaeological finds were discovered in the ring formations themselves, numerous stone tools, pottery fragments, and traces of ancient settlements were found in the surrounding areas. Radiocarbon dating showed that the region had been inhabited for many millennia. A Russian expedition in the 2000s used the latest remote sensing techniques to study the underground structure of the Eye of the Sahara. Ground-penetrating radar scanning revealed a system of underground channels and cavities that could be either natural karst formations or the remains of ancient structures. Detailed interpretation of these data is ongoing and may lead to new discoveries. German researchers have focused on studying the mineralogical composition of the rocks of the Richat Structure. Their analyses have revealed the presence of rare minerals that could only have formed under extreme temperatures and pressures. These findings support the impact theory of the structure's origin, although no final conclusions have yet been made. The study of the microstructure of the minerals is continuing in the laboratory. A Japanese expedition used advanced 3D scanning technology to create a detailed digital model of the Richat structure. The data obtained allowed for accurate geometric analyses and comparisons with other ring structures around the world. The exceptional regularity of the geometric shapes of the Eye of the Sahara was confirmed, distinguishing it from other similar formations. Canadian hydrogeologists studied the water regime of the structure and the possibility of ancient lake systems. Their research confirmed that during periods of wet climate, the ring depressions could indeed have been filled with water, creating a system of concentric lakes. Paleohydrological reconstructions showed the possibility of the existence of a complex water system that could have supported a developed civilization. A joint international expedition in recent years has brought together scientists from various countries to conduct a comprehensive study of the Richat structure. The use of modern technologies has provided the most complete picture of the geological structure and history of the formation of this unique formation. However, many questions remain unanswered, and further research is needed to finally solve the mystery of the Eye of the Sahara. Future expeditions plan to use even more advanced technologies, including deep drilling and detailed geophysical mapping. Perhaps it is these studies that will provide the final answer to the question of the origin of the Richat structure and its possible connection with the legendary Atlantis. International cooperation remains the key to solving this greatest mystery of our planet. After a detailed review of all available data, evidence, and theories, the question of the connection between the Richat structure and the legendary Atlantis remains one of the most exciting mysteries of modern science. On the one hand, the similarities between Plato's descriptions and the characteristics of the Eye of the Sahara are striking in their accuracy and number. On the other hand, the lack of direct archaeological evidence of a developed civilization in this region makes us treat the Atlantic hypothesis with caution. The truth, as is often the case in science, may turn out to be more complex than any of the proposed theories. The geometric similarity between Plato's description and the actual characteristics of the Richat structure is truly impressive. Concentric rings, their sizes, radial watercourses, all these elements find surprisingly accurate correspondences in the ancient text. The probability of such a coincidence of so many parameters is extremely low, which forces us to seriously consider the possibility of a real basis for the philosopher's story. Even if Atlantis was a philosophical allegory, Plato could have used real geographical objects as the basis for his narrative. Paleoclimatic data convincingly prove that the area of the Richat structure had completely different environmental conditions in the past. The Green Sahara, with its lakes, rivers, and rich vegetation, could indeed have supported a developed civilization. The abrupt climate change in the 4th millennium BCE could well have been perceived by contemporaries as a sudden catastrophe of divine origin. This climatic transition could have been the source of numerous myths about floods and lost civilizations. Archaeological finds in the region, although they do not confirm the existence of a civilization of the level described by Plato, testify to the long-term presence of humans in these places. The high quality of some artifacts indicates the existence of developed craft traditions. Perhaps the traces of a more developed civilization were destroyed by time and the extreme conditions of the desert. Organic materials, metal objects, and even stone structures may not have withstood the effects of sandstorms and extreme temperature fluctuations. The technological capabilities of ancient societies, as shown by the latest archaeological discoveries, were significantly higher than previously thought. Göbekli Tepe, underwater structures off the coasts of Japan and India, and megalithic structures around the world. All these discoveries are forcing us to rethink our ideas about the capabilities of Paleolithic and Neolithic cultures. Perhaps humanity in ancient times achieved higher levels of development than is commonly believed. The conservatism of the scientific community, while serving an important function in protecting against pseudoscientific theories, can sometimes hinder the recognition of revolutionary discoveries. The history of science is full of examples of radically new ideas that met with fierce resistance before being accepted. Perhaps the Atlantic hypothesis is waiting for its moment and new evidence that will force us to reconsider established ideas. World mythology contains strikingly similar stories about lost civilizations, which may indicate the common historical roots of these legends. The collective memory of humanity is capable of preserving important events for thousands of years, passing them down in the form of myths and legends. Perhaps the legend of Atlantis is part of this ancient tradition, dating back to real historical events. Modern technology opens up new opportunities for studying the structure of the Richat Structure and searching for traces of ancient civilizations. Satellite sensing, geophysical methods, and analysis using artificial intelligence are all tools that can reveal hidden features that have escaped the attention of previous researchers. Future discoveries could radically change our understanding of ancient history. The final answer to the question of the connection between the Richat Structure and Atlantis may require decades of additional research. Large-scale archaeological excavations, deep drilling, detailed geophysical studies, and comprehensive analysis of all the data obtained are necessary. Only such an approach can provide an objective assessment of the Atlantic hypothesis and other theories about the origin of the Eye of the Sahara. Until then, this structure remains one of the greatest mysteries of our planet, continuing to stir the imagination of researchers and lovers of ancient mysteries.